What's going on, guys? In today's video, we're going to be having a closer look at the brand new gimbal here by Moza. This is the AirCross S. Welcome back, everybody. Leo Pazzo Productions. Thank you very much for tuning in. As I mentioned, we're going to be having a closer look at all the specs and features and all the pros and cons that I like to share with you guys, along with my experiences. So much information that's going to be included in this video, and just kind of any tips and tricks that I like to share with you guys. With me now owning this gimbal for the last few weeks now, and I've been testing it out indoors, outdoors. This gimbal, as I mentioned, has so many features. Just to start with one of the very important features, this gimbal can do 3-in-1. It can basically mount several different types of cameras and actually mount 3 of them all at once. So for an example, I can mount my mirrorless camera, portrait mode, so vertically up and down, and onto my camera I can mount my smartphone, and therefore now I already have 2 options of recording. And now I can also mount an action camera, so all 3 cameras can be mounted to this gimbal in the portrait mode at one time. If you don't need that and you just want to film with 1 camera at a time, for an example like I'm doing with the Panasonic GH6, this is a micro four thirds mirrorless camera, and I've been filming with the Moza AirCross S for the last few weeks now with this setup. I do have mounted on my GH6 camera a small rig cage, and I have my fantastic ultra wide lens, which is the Leica 7.5mm f2.0 lens, which just feels like it's the perfect setup for this gimbal because the camera is pretty lightweight. The camera is now being protected with the small rig cage. I don't necessarily need the small rig cage, but I just feel that I'm a big fan of having a cage on my camera at all times, just for main reason to have it protected. And when I'm not using it on a gimbal, I can easily and quickly set up my camera rig. This gimbal max payload is 1.8 kilograms. And again, that's going to include the camera and all the accessories or all the other cameras that you may want to connect to this rig. So just starting off with some of the simple features, as I mentioned, we can record in the horizontal landscape mode, and we can, in a matter of seconds, probably less within a minute, we can switch this camera to the vertical mode and have it balanced and have it ready to shoot in less than a minute. And once you get familiar and used to the gimbal setup, you're going to be able to switch between the 2 modes very quickly and easily. Again, if you've ever owned a gimbal before, you're going to have a very easy time balancing this gimbal. The AirCross S is a 3-axis gimbal, so you want to be sure to balance properly as best as you can each axis of the gimbal. And once you're done balancing, you want to go within the menu and you want to go ahead and do an auto tune and auto calibrate, which is going to basically just calibrate the gimbal according to the way that you have it balanced. That's going to give you the best performance. And we can go ahead and switch between the modes by just simply tapping 2 times here on this little side button. This side button here is going to act and going to do a few different things for us. So if you just press the side button here 1 time, that's going to allow you to go within the menu. If you press it 2 times, it's going to go through the different modes. So for an example, if I press it 2 times, it's going to take me to the next mode. So I'm currently in the PF mode, which is the pan follow mode. So as you see, as I pan from left to right, the gimbal is basically following my pan nice and smoothly, and we do have controls and settings within the menu to kind of make it a little bit more smoother or a little bit more, I guess, more reactive. So you can do that within the menu settings for the tilt and the follow. So right now I have it set to pretty gradual, nice and smooth, so it's not really like so fast because I want my stuff to be really smooth and cinematic. That's the whole point of having a gimbal, in my opinion. So let's go ahead and change it from the pan follow to the next mode. So I'm just going to double tap here, and that's going to go ahead and take us to the tilt follow. So now when I go ahead and tilt the gimbal downwards for an example, you're going to see that the camera is now pointing downwards on an angle. And if I go ahead and point it up towards the sky, you're going to see that the camera is now pointing upwards as well. And as far as the panning goes, it's pretty much using the same setting that I have previously set in the pan follow mode. So this is what the tilt follow mode looks like when I want to tilt the camera downwards to film something lower or to film something up higher. It's just going to literally follow my movements. If I go ahead to the next mode and double tap here, that's going to take me to the FPV, and now I can go ahead and any way I turn the gimbal, it's basically going to be following my motion and my movements. So this can also be very useful as well. Let's go ahead to the next mode right here. If I double tap, that's going to take it into the locked position. So let's just go ahead and double tap this front button. As you can see, the camera and gimbal is kind of facing a little bit on the angle. So for an example, if I want to recenter it to get it back into the center, you just want to go ahead and double tap this front button here, and you can see that it's nicely positioned exactly where I want it. So I can just tap it with my index finger. If I go ahead and double tap it, you can see that it's now recentered back to the front. And if I go ahead and move the gimbal in any direction, the camera is still facing forward right there because I'm in the lock access mode right here, which could also be a very useful feature as well. Okay, so depending on what you want to film, we have all of these different modes. Right now I'm in the pan follow mode. I'm going to go ahead and put it to the tilt follow mode. So as you see, it's going to be facing down when I tilt it down, and it's going to tilt up when I tilt it up. Again, we're familiar with that already as we talked about that. But if I go ahead and hold this trigger button, it's going to basically lock the axis. So hold the trigger and bang. Now it's not actually tilting down or up when I pan or when I tilt the gimbal up or down. So let's go ahead. I'm going to let go of that front trigger, and look, when I tilt down, it goes down. When it goes up, it goes up. So say I wanted to lock it right here, hold this front trigger, and now it's locked. So now you guys have a little bit better understanding between the menu button here at the side. Again, if you press it once, it's going to allow you to go through the menu. And if you press this front trigger here at the front 2 times, it's going to recenter the gimbal. So along with being familiar with the gimbal and learning all these features, hopefully throughout this video, you guys are going to be a little bit more familiar on actually how to use the gimbal. So if you guys do have any comments, questions, concerns, feel free to let me know down in the comments section down below. I definitely will be reading all of them, and I plan to answer every question that you guys have. If there's anything maybe that I've missed in this video, just let me know. Maybe I'll make a specific video in the future regarding your specific questions. So now that we're a little bit more familiar with the button a little bit, I want to talk about the little joystick that we have here on the left hand side. So right off the bat, I'm going to mention, if you're a left-handed person, which means you're going to be holding the gimbal with the left hand, you're not going to have this joystick here on your right side where your thumb's going to be. So it's probably best to use with your right hand. So therefore the joystick and all the buttons kind of just land up perfectly nice and smooth and kind of convenient for you, which they're lining up for me because I am right-handed. So that's just something that I would like to possibly see improved maybe in a future model. I'm not sure how they can probably make this improvement by being able to swap this little joystick from the left hand side to the right hand side, but if that is something that they can do in the future, that would just be fantastic. That way that it would accommodate everybody, no matter if they're left-handed or right-handed. Talking about the joystick, again, let me just go ahead and put this down so you guys can maybe have a little bit better look over here. Joystick is exactly what you think it is. You want to tilt the camera upwards, or you want to tilt it down, or you want to go left, or you want to go right. We can simply go ahead and do that simply by just touching the joystick. So I like to mention, within the menu, we do have the option to adjust and fine tune the speed of the joystick. So basically how fast it's going to turn, and also the sensitivity. So for an example, if I only push the joystick very slightly to the right, it's going to move very slightly. But if I want to increase the speed, I can go ahead and push the joystick even more further to the right hand side or to the left hand side, or up and down. So we can adjust the speed and the sensitivity within within the menu for the joystick, which is just fantastic because at least it's not just set at a default setting. We can really fine tune it. I will mention that if we press this front trigger here 3 times, look what the gimbal's going to do. 1, 2, 3. There we go. What did the gimbal do? Bang. Now I'm rocking in selfie mode. This is fantastic. Look, small, compact gimbal. I can turn my screen around of my camera. I can monitor myself. If I need to adjust the position, I can simply do that with the joystick, and I'm pretty much ready to rock.
What's going on, guys? So here we are outdoors. It's like -10 out here in Toronto, Canada, and I have the Moza AirCross S. I'm filming right now in the selfie mode. I have the GH6 along with the small rig cage, and the lens that I'm using is the Leica 7.5mm lens, and I just have a wireless microphone just clipped onto my shirt, and I have the receiver on top of the camera, and it's just collecting the audio, sending it directly to the GH6 camera. But overall, it's a nice small compact rig. This is what the footage is looking like. It's very easy to hold and stabilize. The camera and lens is only approximately like 16 inches or so away from me right now. So awesome vlogging setup. This is perfect for vacation because it's so small and compact and just kind of easy to set up and travel around with and whatnot between the horizontal landscape, and we also have the portrait vertical option for the video. So
that's fantastic. And say maybe we're done with selfie mode or we want to flip around the camera, guess what button you press? The front trigger 2 times and it goes back to looking forward, nice rebalanced or recentered. Now that you guys are a little bit more familiar with those features and buttons with the gimbal, I want to go ahead and show you one other cool feature about the gimbal, which is Inception mode. So that menu button that I was talking to you guys earlier about, the one if you press once, it goes into the menu. If you press it twice, it goes between the different modes. So if you press it 3 times, 1, 2, 3, Inception mode, baby. Now the gimbal is facing straight up if I want to film something up, you know, towards the sky or the ceiling. And now if I want to get the gimbal to do a 360 continuously, I can simply go ahead and do that by pressing the joystick. Okay, so right now, let's say I want to restart shooting, double tap, bang, it's nice and centered. Now I want to do Inception mode and I want to film the camera. You can see the gimbal's a little bit maybe slightly leaning towards the side. Guess what button I'm going to press? The front button here 2 times to recenter. As you can see, the gimbal just recentered itself. So I'm ready to roll right now. Camera is nice and horizontal and level, and I'm positioned the way I want. And now for an example, I can go ahead and press record on my camera, which we're going to be talking about another feature shortly about the recording and stopping recording. But first, let's continue this with this Inception mode feature here. So now I'm ready to film. I'm just going to go ahead and I'm just going to press the joystick, and now I can do a 360 Inception and continuously do this if I want. For this gimbal, it seems like there's no problem at all to be doing the Inception mode, which is just a fantastic feature if you want to take advantage of that. As you can see, this 360 Inception mode, and again, we can adjust the speed all within the menu. let's go ahead and talk about the next awesome feature here. I was actually surprised that it was going to work with my camera, because when I looked through the menu of the AirCross S, I did not see my exact camera listed. I saw the GH5, I saw a bunch of other cameras, I think Sony and Canon and Nikon. I saw a bunch of other cameras listed, but I didn't see my exact model, the Panasonic GH6. And guess what? It wasn't listed, but I was still able to take advantage of this recording button right here at the front of the gimbal. I can activate my camera's recording and stop recording with this little recording button here, right here at my fingertip. Fantastic, great position. So you ask, how do I trigger the recording on my camera with the gimbal? By just pressing this button. Well, I'm going to be using the cable provided. So I do have a USB-C port at the side of my camera. I'm going to be able to plug that cable into the side of my camera via the USB-C port, and the other end of that cable is going to be plugging in right here at the side of the gimbal. But long story short, the cable's included. It plugs in my camera, it plugs in the gimbal. I went to go ahead and press record in video mode, and bang, it's recording. I went to go ahead and press that same record button to stop, and bang, it stopped recording. Fantastic. So over here on the right hand side of the gimbal, we do have the power on and off button. Hold down the power button to turn it on, or hold it for a few seconds to turn it off. If we do press the power button one time, it's going to put the gimbal to sleep. So basically it's just kind of be floating around. So why don't I go ahead and do that? I'm going to go ahead and press the power button one time, and it says sleep right here on the display. So the gimbal, as you can see now, maybe I need to adjust something, maybe I need to, I don't know, attach an accessory, maybe I need to change the lens or change the battery or do something like that. I can simply do that without disturbing the gimbal, okay, while it is actually being stabilized. Okay, so if we want to go ahead and wake the gimbal up, you just want to go ahead and press the power button one time, a short press again, and bang, the gimbal is back and ready to roll. Beside the power button, we do have a USB-C port, which is going to allow us to charge the gimbal. Battery life is going to be able to last from anywhere from 9 hours to 12 hours. Okay, I guess it has that range. I guess it depends on how heavy and how much equipment you do have on this gimbal, because again, you're able to mount 3 different cameras. Mirrorless camera, which I'm currently using. We can also mount the smartphone on top of the mirrorless camera, and we can also mount the action camera. So 3 cameras all at once in the vertical portrait mode. So if you're going to be having all that weight and it's within the payload weight of 1.8 kilograms, I'm assuming that the battery life is just going to die a little bit quicker. So I guess therefore that's why we have that 9 hours to 12-hour range for the battery life. I will mention that within the owner's manual, I do recall reading that it says not to deplete the battery or else it may cause damage. So basically, don't bring the battery all the way to zero, or don't let it get really low because it may cause damage. So that's something that I would definitely want to just kind of take note of. So I will mention that the screen here on the AirCross S is actually very easy to see, and it's very pleasant and easy to work with because you can clearly see which mode you're in. You can go through all the menu and all the settings with no issues. It's a nice display screen, and even when you're outdoors in a bright environment, I can say that it is easy to see. Talking about the app, we'll get to that shortly, but yes, this AirCross S can be used with the Moza app. It's called the Moza Master app. Again, that app seems super powerful. There's many features in that app that I'd love to share with you guys and talk to you guys about. Maybe I might include it in a future video to be a little bit more detailed, but the app, just quickly talking about it, is super powerful. You can actually get your phone connected to the Moza Master app, and you can use your phone and turn your phone like in your hand, and the gimbal will react to it. We can actually set A and B and C points and set the timing, so it's like a time lapse or like a hyperlapse setting. We can set like the angle of the gimbal all within the app. We can update the gimbal on the app, which I actually did myself. I updated the firmware update via the app. When I first tested out the app, I can see that it was able to be done, so I just simply pressed update because it says there was an update available. Which reminds me, I might as well mention to you, the firmware that I'm currently using right now is firmware 1.0.0. So continuing to have a closer look at the gimbal, we do have a small little locking feature mechanism on each axis of the gimbal. We have one right over here at the top, which is going to allow us to lock the axis. Again, why would you be locking it? Maybe when you're just starting to get it balanced, you might want to lock it just in the starting process, while you're starting to put your camera and getting it mounted onto the gimbal. But more so when you basically have your camera off the gimbal and you don't want the gimbal to be kind of just swaying all over the place, we can just go ahead and simply lock each axis. There's 3 different locks, so the gimbal is just kind of nice and positioned and doesn't be swinging around and getting damaged. So again, we do have one right here at the top that's going to lock that axis. We do have another one over here on the left hand side that's going to be locking this axis, and we do also have one over here towards the bottom beside the power button and the charging port. So I think we're pretty familiar with all the buttons on here. I think we're familiar with the gimbal more or less. I think what we need to do is probably take off the camera off the gimbal. I'm going to go ahead and power it down. I'm just going to hold down the power button for a few seconds. It's powering down. Before I actually take it off, I just kind of wanted to show you guys how well this camera is balanced. Doesn't look too balanced like this, does it? No, because why? I push my screen back in, right? So just my screen being out like this to the side is going to balance my camera, and that's how I balance this camera onto the gimbal. You can see that the gimbal's off, the gimbal's totally off, but the fact that it's properly balanced, you can see like this. You can see when I put it upwards, it maintains a position. So this is a very well balanced rig right over here. It feels and looks balanced. I properly balanced this and also calibrated the auto tuning calibration with this gimbal once it was powered on. So if you want to mount any other additional accessories, you're going to have to rebalance the gimbal. So let's go ahead and take off the camera off the gimbal. I'm just going to unlock this locking mechanism here for the ARCA plate. And one cool feature that you guys should be aware about, like most other gimbals do have, but again, it just kind of makes that extra security, that there is a locking pin. So even though the actual lock that's loosens the ARCA plate is loosened, I've taken it off, going to slide off the gimbal and fall to the ground. It's locked in there with a little pin. So what we're going to do over here is just push in this little silver little unlocking, I guess, button you want to call it, and the camera just simply slides out. Okay, so there it is, the ARCA plate mounted here at the bottom of the cage. And as you can see, the gimbal can kind of move in all these kind of sorts of directions and movements, and you don't want to kind of getting it damaged and all scratched up for no reason. So that leads me to talk to you guys again in more detail about these locking features, because this would be an instance where you would actually want to use these locks. So I'm just going to hold it up to the upright position. I'm going to press this lock, and bang, now this axis is locked. Okay, now I'm going to go ahead and lock this next axis right here. You can see that it's moving. I'm just going to go ahead and put it into the lock position, and now this axis is also locked. So all I have left is the pan axis, which you can see that it's spinning around right now. So I'm just going to go ahead and lock it here at the side, and bang, now it's locked. It's not going left and right, it's not going up and down, it's not going to get any damage. I can go ahead and pack this away in my backpack, my camera bag. So if I wanted to go ahead and now start filming, just go ahead and simply connect the tripod on here at the bottom of the gimbal. I'm going to go ahead, open up the tripod, place it down. I'm going to go ahead and put the camera, slide in the Arca Swiss plate here from the front of the gimbal, slide it. And if you actually get one of these gimbals in real life, you'll notice, well, why isn't it going on? That's because it wants you to press the unlock button so it can actually slide on. Okay, so now that it's on, you can see that the lock is catching the camera. It's not allowing it to fall off. So what I want to do now is actually unlock this axis so I can see if I'm balancing it. So now that I've unlocked it, you can see that if I let go of the camera, it kind of want to leans forward. So what does that mean? I need to slide the camera backwards. So I'm just going to keep on sliding it backwards ever so slightly. And as you can see, the camera's maintaining its balance as is. So I'm just going to go ahead and lock that by pushing in the lock here, and now the camera, as you can see, it's balanced. And I'm going to go ahead and unlock the other one, but as you see, as we talked about earlier, the gimbal's leaning to the right, and that's all because of the screen. If I go ahead and bring out my screen to my normal filming position and I let go of the camera, you can see that it's pretty much balanced as is. Very impressed with that. Nice and easy to set up and start filming, or to pack it up and put it away, and bang, now we're ready to go ahead and unscrew this little locking mechanism right here. What this is going to do is allow us to take off our L bracket. Okay, and I'm going to show you right now. I'm going to unscrew this, or not totally unscrew it. I'm going to unloosen it. I'm going to slide this upwards. We're going to slide in the camera as so. I'm going to raise it up off the bottom a little bit so it doesn't hit the bottom. And I'm just going to tighten this up. Okay, bingo. And we're pretty much ready to film shortly in the portrait vertical mode. Okay, so but right now, as you see, the camera does look balanced, but actually that's because I have these axes still locked. So I need to unlock them. Okay, and as you see, if I were to let go, the camera wants to lean that way. It's too heavy. So what I'm going to need to do is loosen up this axis here on the back, this little nut, just loosen it up, and I need to slide it over to the left until it feels like it's balanced. And it looks like we're there. Now I'm just going to tighten it up. Bingo. Now we're there. The camera is pretty much balanced. So as you can see, it was just a matter of seconds. I'm going to say less than a minute to take it off from the landscape mode and now having it set up to the portrait mode and just simply rebalancing it. So in this case, to be honest with you, I think it is our best interest to go within the menu and do the auto tune calibration, just because we have adjusted the balancing of the camera. So now we are back in the pan follow mode and we are filming in the portrait mode. As you can see, I can bring the gimbal up as far as this. If I go any more, then this part of the gimbal, the back part of the gimbal, is going to be hitting my camera setup. Depending on which camera you have set up over here, you may not have that exact situation that I'm experiencing right now. But as far as balance and being able to stabilize my videos in this mode, this would be a fantastic option. So if I go ahead and triple press the front trigger button, 1, 2, 3, that's going to go ahead and turn around the camera gimbal so I can start filming in selfie mode, in portrait mode. The only thing that I may say that you may want to be aware of, just so you guys are aware, in this scenario, in this case, at least with my setup with this camera, I'm not being able to monitor myself via the flip screen on my camera. I don't have access to my flip screen to flip it out. It would actually be hitting the gimbal. So another cool feature about the AirCross S that it does include this bag, this carrying bag that we can kind of just simply pack up the gimbal along with our camera and our lens and whatever other small accessories. We can pack it all up in here in this bag that's included with the kit. So I'm just going to go ahead and open it up for you guys. We can have a closer look at what's inside. Currently very minimal. I will mention that there are these 3 little protective pads with Velcro on either end that we can kind of divide it up into our own liking depending on how we kind of want to organize what's inside this carrying bag. For an example, the gimbal, the camera, the lens, and whatever other accessories. We do have this smartphone clamp over here which has 1/4" thread at the back, and we also have one here at the side or the bottom. But I did try holding my iPhone 14 Pro Max in this smartphone clamp, and it does hold my 14 Pro Max iPhone, and I can go ahead and simply mount this onto the camera as is. So just having a look here at the rest of the bag, we do have 3 cables over here. Again, this is the exact cable that I was using to connect the camera to the gimbal, so I'm able to trigger the stop and start record with the red record button here at the front of the gimbal, which was a fantastic feature. We do have 2 other cables over here. One's going to be a charging cable, USB to USB-C, and we also do have another cable over here which is like a micro USB that's going to, again, probably just connect to a different brand camera. So as far as the carrying case goes, I'm happy that it includes it. At least we have somewhere to put our gear when we are not using it. When we're traveling, it's going to be protected. We can hold not only the gimbal but other accessories inside of this bag as well. So I'm very happy that we do have a carrying case included with the gimbal, especially for this price point at $269 USD, which is just an awesome budget for any type of a creator, content creator. We're going to get nice smooth footage out of this gimbal. Again, it does vertical, it does portrait mode, the horizontal landscape mode. We've got the case, we got the cables, the mini tripod, basically the app that has so many features, the selfie mode, the different modes, like the menu, the settings. I've been very impressed with this gimbal, very pleased with it. If you guys do have any comments, questions, concerns, let me know down in the comment section down below. I'm looking forward to reaching all of them. Hopefully you guys learned something in this video, and I'm looking forward to seeing you guys on the next one. Peace.